Have you been thinking about composting a whole ass tree? Of course you haven't, but I have. All right, guys, so today I want to go over an experiment that we did, and that was composting logs. I want to talk about why we did this, why you would do this, how this could be beneficial for your soil. I want to also go over what we think, because this is actually starting to prove to be valuable to our farm and an actual valuable source. So I want to go over kind of what it's going to look like. And then in a little bit, we're going to actually start to uncover this. I've got my tractor out here. We're going to uncover this and start to push it over and see what it looks like at this point. But we really want to go over what this can do for you. Is this a valuable option for you? Can you do it with or without a tractor? So we started this process probably about 8 months ago. We started out laying the logs out just flat, right on the ground, and then slowly covering them with soil. And that, kind of the thought process was, let's get it covered in moisture so that it will be wet as quickly as possible. Also get it as close to the microbes as possible. The majority of your microbes start out close to the ground. We did not add any additional microbes. We could have, but I really wanted to see how low maintenance this process could be and how easy it could be. That was kind of the goal. The downside to this process is you're almost definitely going to need a tractor or some type of heavier piece of equipment. But if you want to follow along, there's also some really good ways that you can do this if you don't have a tractor in a little bit of a smaller scale, and we'll get into that here in just a minute. But what you want to do after we laid it out, we kind of started covering in that. But the key to composting a log, what we have found is, you have to remember, a log is mostly carbon, okay? And the smaller that log gets, the more nitrogen it has. The bigger it gets, the more carbon it has. You want at least a 50-50 ratio, 50% ratio of carbon to nitrogen. And I know some people are going to throw it in the comments that oh yes, you do want that 100%. It's not at least, all like that. I don't really want to get into that too much. The only thing I do want to say is, one thing we have learned with a lot of experimentation is higher nitrogen is not a bad thing at all. That's one thing we've observed. We've actually sped up the process to that, and we may have some videos on that in the future. We've definitely already done some talking about that in the past, okay? But so what you want to do, knowing that log is mostly carbon, is first you want to add your dirt like we talked about, and that's going to get your microbes close, and it's going to get your keep your moisture in the log, because that's key. You want the moisture so that it's soft, so that certain beetles and things like that can start to bore down in the log, and that gets more moisture and gives places for microbes, okay? So that's kind of your first key point. The second key point is adding the nitrogen. So something that we've been doing quite a while on our farm is bringing in external coffee grounds, okay? That is a very good nitrogen source. It does have carbon with it, but it does have quite a bit of nitrogen. The main thing for us is it's a free source that we're able to bring in from other coffee shops in the towns nearby. So by doing that, once we've put some of the extra layer of dirt and we've got it close to the dirt, then we're able to add that exogenous nitrogen source, which starts to speed up that process, because when you have lots of carbon, you can actually start to those microbes need nitrogen in order to help break that down. So by adding that extra nitrogen, you can really start to break down that carbon. So we did that for a while. We liked it, but it wasn't great, okay? So then we tried scooping it up. You can see I pushed it up into this pile. Instead of having small amounts of dirt and things like that, at first we were adding Savannah's microgreen trays. If you want, you can check out our old videos on a lot of the things that we've done with microgreen trays. We've had some really cool results here for building soil with that. But we didn't like it because it's already a higher carbon source. So I've completely scratched that and taken that out. So instead, I piled it up like this, and I actually added existing dirt and compost. So the compost is not only going to be a kind of a dirt source of its own, but it's also going to be pretty high in nitrogen because you've already created compost. And you can check out our other videos more on composting too. And we do lots of low maintenance compost. So you can get lots and lots of stuff for very little work. That's kind of our goal behind this whole thing. Because a lot of farmers fail because, or farmers and homesteaders fail because they have way too much work with very little outcome. Our goal has been lots and lots of outcome, very little work. Okay. So check all of those videos out as well. So by adding the extra compost, you're getting that little bit of nitrogen, you're getting the extra soil, but you're also getting quite a bit of microbes that have already built up into that compost pile. Okay. This dog is just absolutely loving this pile. Everything loves this pile. Goats, sheep, cows, everything loves the pile. Okay. So you pile all of that up around there. You want to layer it kind of like a lasagna. You want to kind of get your logs, get some dirt or some compost. Get your logs, get some compost. Get your logs, get some compost. If this is your first time and you don't have a huge pile of compost like we do, then just use dirt. Any dirt at all. Your dirt's got microbes in it. And you could even, like a lot of people would think about layering hay. I don't suggest it because you could layer like a green grass, but I wouldn't suggest layering hay because hay is already a carbon source, a fairly high carbon source in itself. So I wouldn't do that, even though it might not hurt and it may help some. What I would really suggest doing is just layering the dirt and logs as a nice lasagna. So for anybody following along with the boot comparison we've been doing with Twisted X and Thorogood, today I'm actually wearing my Twisted X cowboy style boots. The comparison is going to come along. If you haven't checked that out, we will put a link to some of the videos so far. Subscribe so that you can kind of follow along with that. We will be doing a full review of how these boots hold up on the farm versus out on shutdown jobs and welding jobs, just to kind of see which ones I like better and what are the good differences. Both boots are my favorite. Check that out. But as you layer it, layer the coffee grounds or nitrogen source. Other nitrogen sources would be if you had a chicken house near you, or if you have your own set of chickens, you could actually have your chickens or small chicks that you have in your little brooding system, pull their manure out and layer that as part of your lasagna layering. By layering all of that up, you're really starting to build up your nitrogen source, but by putting the dirt and the any kind of dirt or anything like that, you're really going to start to break these logs down quite a bit faster. Now, one of the things about logs, I've seen that we have a set of logs on our property, me and Savannah. This little piece of property here, we have a set of logs that way. I won't show it to you. I remember when I first came to visit Savannah, we were not even married yet. It was literally the second day after we met. I went over with her dad and a couple of her friends, and we cut all these logs up, fresh tree that had fallen, loaded it up on a tree, and we helped them dump it off. And that was near a creek right down here. Okay. That tree was piled up. It was left dry, and it is still there. Now it is starting to break down pretty good bit, but it's still there to this day. And it's not that much more rotten than some of these trees sitting here. Now it is a bigger tree. Okay. But it's pine. All of this is pine. So it's the same wood. Why it's not rotting is A, it doesn't have the nitrogen source, but B, it's brought up away from there. So the bottom ones are rotting faster, but it's kept as dry as can be. It's very difficult for anything to break those microbes down. So that's kind of a comparison of what happens when, or what can happen, how long it can take a log to break down. We do a lot of sawmilling on our place, so being able to break down the extra waste that we would ordinarily burn gives us a way to build soil with that and not burning it unless we want to burn it in a fire or something, in like a little campfire or bonfire. Also, knowing that keeping it up off the ground like that can be really good for preserving those logs. So if we want to preserve it, we'll stack them up, and that's going to help it to stay around for quite a while instead of being close to the ground where all the microbes are and slowly decomposing that log. So why would you want to do this? What would be a reason for this? Walk around here. Let's take a look at some of this. What would be some of your reasoning for actually breaking a log down like this? Well, number one, it gives you a resource, okay? Instead of having to grind this log, like Joe Salatin, he actually has a grinder. He grinds a lot of his stuff down, and that causes it to break down faster. This gives you the ability to do it without that grinder, but also without fuel. There's very little fuel here, and a person could actually do this 100% without a tractor and without fuel. If they, you could literally just take a four-wheeler and drag the logs in place in that lasagna effect, cover it, and then after that, you would have to use your own hands and physical body to move it if you didn't have a tractor. But once you got that, then that layering effect would begin to break it down. Obviously, any composting is going to be better when you turn it faster. But like we've talked about in the past, if you have a large enough pile, you don't need speed, okay? There's a ton of videos talking about how to get compost fast, but they're compost piles this big, okay? So of course you want it fast because you're not going to have very much. We have all the compost we could ever want with extremely little output from us, very little work, very little time, and very little money investment through a tractor. The downside is we have had to use a tractor, but we only turn it once, maybe twice, and we get compost. It is a little slower, but you get such a high volume of compost, you just almost don't need to worry about compost after that. So it is a method for that. A person could do it without a tractor. But even if you had a tractor, which would be ideal, you don't need a very big tractor, okay? And most farmers or homesteaders eventually end up with a tractor. So why this is so beneficial is because there's so little fuel that goes into this, even if you're running a diesel tractor, and it gives you the ability to take actual logs from your property. You can cut these trees down. The smaller the better, because the smaller the log is, the less carbon to, no, the better the carbon to nitrogen ratio, which means that you're closer to that 50-50%, which means that you're going to have more nitrogen. Secondly, because you have more bark on each one, the layering effect has already kind of gotten started for you, okay? So that's kind of the benefit of it. As a guy or a girl or someone starting their farm or homestead and go out here and they got something to do with all these trees, because one of the things we ran into is we were wasting trees is what it felt like. Some of it we could use in a bonfire or a campfire, and that was great, okay? But some of it ended up having to be burned in large bonfires that we ordinarily wouldn't have even burned. So that's why I came up with this method, is because now we can actually build soil with this method right here. Or you can do the one thing that we do for generating exogenous income on our property via logs from other people. That's a video I haven't made yet. Subscribe if you want to see more on that. Drop a comment down below if you want to know how you can do that, generating income on your land, almost no work from you at all. And an exogenous or an extra thing that you can do is actually build soil from that method. So when you go into that, it's pretty simple. You layer it all. The benefits are simple because you're able to build soil from almost anything, from just your land. You can literally dig dirt from your land for this process, and then you end up with good topsoil from that, okay? It is a longer process. This is our first time doing this. It wouldn't be 8 months if we hadn't had the first 4 months over here. It would have been faster because it's already breaking down even faster from there. So let's start digging into this and really take a look at what it looks like right now. Guys, today I'd like to do something I don't do very often, and that is to mention another YouTube channel that I really like. This is a smaller YouTube channel. It is Twin Oaks Family Farm. I really like their channel. They've been very supportive to us. They've been a great subscriber, but they've also put out a lot of really good content. I believe they have close to 1,700 videos. It's mostly about chickens from what I can see. A lot of good stuff on chickens and things like that. I highly recommend you go check them out. They're a great family. They're a great farm, and I really think they could use a little help. They're almost to 2,000 subscribers. So guys, go check them out. maybe subscribe to their channel, at least get them up above that 2,000 point. All right, come over and let's take a look at it. So you can see right off the bat, especially as I was digging into it, some of these smaller 8 and 10-inch logs are actually really starting to break down. So yes, there's still a high carbon source at this point. This is not really going to be a valuable compost yet, but it will definitely start to break down. The benefit is that it's more of a breaking point. It's an easy place for microbes to begin to break down and actually get to. And that is a big part of what that's a big part of why logs take a while to break down, is the fact that the microbe literally can't get into the log. That is a huge part of it. The second piece is obviously the lack of nitrogen. So by adding those two together, you really get a benefit. Now, some of these bigger logs, they're not quite as decomposed, but you can tell we're really starting to come apart and break up. I mean, this whole log split right in half, pretty easy. And as we really dig down into it, come up over here, Savannah, you can actually see some of the actual dirt that is starting to become. Now that is a log and that's like log and dirt mixed together. So it's not quite a compost, but we're definitely starting to get some breakdown. You can see a little clay that got mixed in from some of the dirt that I did, and you can still see some sand. At this point, now that it's been sitting here, I would say if I would have layered it correctly, this would have been about a 4-month process, which is really, really darn good. Now, maybe it would be different depending on the time of year. You're probably going to get better results in our part of the country where we get composting all year round. Some of you guys in some of your places, you only get composting during your warmer months. Living in the South, even when it's cool, you're still getting some composting on those 70-degree days, okay? So that's going to depend on where you're at as far as timing goes. Part of it could be your soil. You know, we've been working on this soil for quite a while now. We got a lot of videos talking about that. So it's possible we have more microbes in our soil. So when we dug that soil up and put it into here, it's possible that helped with it. Whatever the case may be, this is going to increase your process. Come around over here, take a look at this. Yeah, I like this. This is my first time looking into this, guys. I'm letting y'all see exactly as I'm seeing this. Yeah, look at that. I mean, I'm digging my hand through the log right now, literally just breaking the log up with my hand. So you could actually take this. Here's the awesome thing, guys. You could take this log at this point in the process, okay? And you could make this your mulch. This is no grinder needed. You could literally mulch your trees with that at this point, just at this point in the stage. If you didn't want to make a complete compost, this could now be broken up and mulching your trees. It would then dry up, and all of that comes without any kind of equipment except for your tractor to push it. That did not take me very much money at all to pick that up and move it, okay? This could be just a couple time process and you could actually accomplish this. So I really think that this is a valuable option. I'm super excited about this on our farm because from now on, any size log, it will work. Obviously, the bigger the log, the longer it's going to take. Now, here's the best part, I think, for me, is that some of your cores may not ever rot. But here's what's great. You rot all the way down to your core, okay? You rot it down to your core. Now you pull your core out, and that's your firewood, okay? Now, I'm not talking about for inside your house, but I'm talking about that's your firewood for a nice little bonfire, for a little campfire. Me and my wife, we love this time of year to get in and burn a good little campfire. So, guys, I'm excited about this process. This has been an experiment that I didn't know for sure would work, but I'm really, really happy that it worked. And I thank y'all for coming along on the process. I'm really excited to see how this might go, and I want to hear from y'all. What do you think about this process? Is this something that you think you could do? And what are some good ideas that you think we could use on our farm using this process? Thank y'all. Don't forget, like, subscribe.